Boa tarde. Hello. In English. We're doing this in English, right? Yes. Hello, everyone. How are you enjoying Future Works Lisbon Summit 2022? Are you all awake? That's really awesome to know. Okay, so in this next segment, we talk about this thing called sales and B2B selling. My name is Helga Saraiva-Stewart. I'm a champion for sales education and innovation with SalesShaker and salesShaker.com. So, here we go. This is our title today, The Future of Selling, Selling Less. Who would have thought, eh? But the fact is that B2B selling is in trouble today. Big, big trouble. And this is partly because sales teams, sales individuals, the commercial engine of organizations are failing to produce the results that they need to show, to help them to overcome disruption and to help them to gauge new opportunities in their markets. Also, this acceleration to digital, and I'm sorry, I'm missing my clicker here. Here we go. Also, innovating this acceleration to digital is showing, it's making organizations stack up all this technology, but it's lacking direction. It's overwhelming. And more importantly, it's overwhelming the buyer. There is one incredible factor that's forcing companies to really think about how they are building and innovating their commercial engine. And guess what? It's their boss. Their boss has changed. Their boss has innovated. They want to buy in a different way. And guess what? Their boss is the client. The client has changed, and companies are finding it incredibly difficult to move on with how their buyer buys nowadays. And this is what I wanted to talk about today, about how companies are unifying their commercial engine, how they are selling the way that their buyers are buying, how they are developing this thing called situational awareness. This is, to me, the most important soft skill that is lacking today in organizations. And mind you, when I talk about the commercial engine, I'm not just talking about salespeople or marketing or client support. I'm talking throughout the organization. How are you building your situational awareness? What the heck is it in the first place? What is it? And lastly, we'll start with how selling has evolved. So I started talking about the buyer, and when you think about your buyer, you think about how you relate to this buyer, you can ask yourself, is this person a lead? Is this person a prospect or a customer? Does this person buy from me occasionally or buy from me constantly? Is this person an advocate of my business? Or am I truly a partner? If I left, that client would miss our business. These are different levels of partnering with your client. Most organizations, if you are doing a transactional business, that's fine. Nothing wrong with it. But if you are trying to get to this level of partnership, then look at the way that commercial practices are evolving, where you begin with this functional alignment between sales, marketing, customer support, maybe even product development. Now companies are shifting to a partnership, but the way to the future, what companies are trying to do is actually reach this commercial convergence. And we'll talk a little bit about what this commercial convergence is. Where you are talking still about omni-channel. Companies today are looking at this multi-experience that they can provide to their customers, But the really successful companies are already one step ahead. And they're looking at this multi-threaded engagement with their client. And we'll have a look at what that is as well. And then lastly, and listen, this is where I see most organizations at. They're still very much seller-centric, me-centric. So when they approach a client or a prospect for the first time, guess what they're talking about? Me, me, me. The organization, the product, the service, themselves. We are number one. We are the best at. Clients do not care about that. They don't care about you. They don't care about your organization. They certainly don't care about your product or service. They care about what you can do for them. And this type of mindset, this type of value selling, this requires the type of transitioning that companies or individuals are finding very difficult to achieve. And it requires situational awareness. So, what does this mean, this unifying this commercial engine? Companies that are after consistency in terms of performance, companies that want to innovate their sales team, they need a process. That process defines the stages that the salesperson, the sales individual goes through in order to complete the sale. Whatever your sales process is, it needs to be defined, established, planned, distributed and communicated across the company. But that's not it alone. You then need to align that to the way that your buyer buys. Not just the buying journey, but the client life cycle. And then, most people don't even think about this third journey, which is the decision-making journey of the client. How does the client decide? The way the client decides is different from the way they buy. And so this unified commercial engine, it sounds like a simple thing to achieve, but there's a lot behind this. What we're talking about here are companies that are able to put together, to unify their sales, their marketing, their client support into one organism that collaborates and it's unified with the same aligned strategies. There's a company called Smart Technology that actually did that. Not only did they do that, but then they did that throughout the pandemic, and their results were incredible. Harvard Business Review is raving about these guys. But it required, guess what? They had to get rid of titles like Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Sales Officer, Customer Support Success. They had to let go of the egos and then bring the teams together. And what they did was so incredible. It's actually inspiring organizations across the world to do it. Companies like Gartner, Forrester, everybody's talking about this. Selling the way that your buyer buys requires you to identify and understand the journeys that the different stakeholders within the organization make to make a decision to buy from you or from anybody else. It requires you to acknowledge that every single stakeholder in the buying committee thinks, is motivated differently. And you go after this information, you identify these pathways, and then you are able to internally align your marketing campaigns, chat box, customer support, your salespeople to these, to collaborate to meet the needs, the wishes and wants of each stakeholder involved in the buying committee, and then understand what are these touch points. where they meet, and we can optimize their experience. The client does not want to see the inner workings of your company. They just want this beautiful, streamlined experience that acknowledges each stakeholder for their individual wants and needs, and then it implements strategies and tactics that facilitate the interaction with each one of those stakeholders specifically. Easier said than done, right? And then, what is this situational awareness? Situational awareness is the understanding of your client's world's reality. Not just how they operate, how they buy, but how do they think? Where do they go? What challenges do they have? What problems are they trying to resolve that we can meet in a differentiated way? That sentence that I've just said right here, right now, let me tell you, this is where most salespeople fail. If you're thinking as a leader right now, oh yeah, my team is screwed up. Let me just tell you, I work with salespeople. When I ask them, and I say specifically, what problem do you solve for your client? My product does this, or we do that, and we are the best at that and that. You're talking about yourself. You're talking about yourself. Let me give you a harsh truth of the reality that we live today. Most salespeople, not only do they not have situational awareness, the organization doesn't really build this entirely, and if it does, it's not distributing it across the commercial engine. But don't be fooled by the salespeople who are really only trying to safeguard their own position when they say, oh yeah, I know everything. Oh yeah, it's not my fault. It's the markets. It's the markets. It's the pandemic. How the heck is it the pandemic? There are people selling during the pandemic. There are problems being solved during the pandemic. Are the problems that you're solving the problems that your client wants you to solve for them? More importantly, companies and sales leaders and entrepreneurs, business owners out there, the problem, are you listening to your client? Are you collecting information from your client in the best possible way? Because that intelligence is what then feeds into how you then sell back to your clients, on how you position your competitive advantages next to your client, in how you think about the products of the future. So, situational awareness requires you going back to basics. So, when we are talking about selling and selling less, we are talking about initiating commercial conversations that lead to opportunities and new opportunities, but based on what is important to the other person, not yourself. You need to understand that person's world so well, better than themselves, because the nirvana here, the epitome here, the goal here is to start a conversation being able to say, actually, I don't need to ask what's keeping you up at night. I have a pretty good idea of what's keeping you up at night. I live in this world. I talk with many other leaders like yourself who are all going through the same challenges. If you want to capture somebody's attention, you talk about what they want to talk about, what's important to them, and then you show them how to get it. And the way to get it, hopefully, is with your solution that meets those requirements in a differentiated way. That is situational awareness. And that is the level at which we should be helping our sales professionals, our commercial engine, to not only thrive to and develop to, but actually help to grow the kind of open and growth mindset that helps them to get there. Because companies and individuals and sales teams are not able to do it without the right mindset, without the value-centric mindset, client-centric mindset, other-centric mindset. And guess what? that then all feeds within the organization to then create and develop the kind of culture where everyone sells. Everyone sells. So I know I'm running out of time. I wanted to thank you for your time and for giving me all your attention. It's been lovely to speak with you, and thank you very much. If you want to connect with me, free to do so.